Okay, so that was a lot of great information, but I know you've got it. All of that for just one process. Wow, good job. Okay, so now we're on conduct procurements, the second process. So there are 21 inputs, tools, techniques, and outputs in this process. So just kind of imbibe in it would be my input. There are inputs from the project management plan, the project documents, procurement documents, the seller's proposal. Remember, conduct procurements. I'm all about looking at their proposals, judging them, and choosing one. The output is to choose one. So as an input, I have my common ones, but a procurement document and seller proposals, bam, that should stick out to us now. Some of the tools I can use is to have a bidders conference. I can set up a conference, invite everybody that wants to attend. I can give a presentation, answer questions. That's a bidders conference. I don't have to do it. It's just a tool. I will do data analysis by evaluating the proposals as I wrote down in my procurement management plan. Okay. Now, the inputs continued. That's just kind of a bigger view with some extra notes there. And I can also advertise. Now, when I talk about data analysis of the seller's proposals, here's an example of a weighted criteria that I might use, right? So these on the left-hand column are the things I was looking for in the procurement. Here's how, which I would have shared with them probably. I probably wouldn't share the weight, but here's how I weighted them. Reputation was more important than software development, just for my particular project. That's all. Doesn't mean it isn't ever important. And so company A was rated with these points, and when I multiplied the weight, they ended up with 390 points. Company B, 400 points, and company C, 290. Just because company C ended up with 290 points doesn't make them bad. Look how well they scored in software development. It's just not what I needed for this project. So now I've got 390 and 400. That really is too close to call, so I would probably follow up with vendor presentations, have them come in and give me a pitch. Differentiate yourself, I would say to them. So my outputs here are to select a seller and to then have an agreement or a contract actually signed, right? And change requests and OPA updates. OPA updates because I've just concluded a procurement process to sign someone. I've probably learned some lessons, some policies, some processes to update along the way. Now, in this process, before I signed them, once I'd selected them, but before they were signed, negotiation would go on, right? And so, likely. And especially for a cost reimbursable or time and material. I might do some negotiation with fixed price, but not likely. If I had to throw one away from a because here's your detailed statement of work, your scope, and here's how much we're offering. So really there's not much to negotiate. Okay, and the objectives from a PMI perspective, be fair, make it win-win. And from my point of view, I mostly want to negotiate or refine the scope, schedule, cost. I'm always thinking about my baseline as the buyer, my baselines. Realize that now that we have a formal contract, what makes the contract, what is the contract purpose? It's really just to create mutual communication in a written form, defining the roles, mitigating the risks through terms and conditions, etc. But know that it is legally binding. So how do you know you have a contract? Well, these are the 5 steps to having a real contract. There's an offer, then someone has to accept it. There has to be something of value exchanged. That's called consideration. You have to have the legal capacity to go into the contract. That's why we use a procurement manager or officer. And it has to be for a legal purpose. Okay? You can think of some illegal purposes. Now, the third and final process is control procurements. This is largely about because it's a contract, not a lot to control. I'm going to collect reports and information according to the rules of the contract, and I'm going to manage the relationship. I don't want to overtask them. I don't want to contact them more often than the contract allows me to. And I want to monitor the performance and, of course, make changes. Now, change management should be intentionally written into the contract as the project manager. This is something I want to emphasize with my procurement manager, because I've built a very robust integrated change control system for my project. That's how I'm managing changes on this predictive or waterfall project. So I want to make sure my procurement ties into that process. So I have my inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs. Notice as inputs, I want to include agreements and procurement documents again, just like in Conduct Procurements. And this time, any approved change requests. So this is the third and final place that approved change requests go. When an approved change is finalized in integrated change control, bam, it goes to three processes. Direct and manage project work as an input. They need to know because they're building it. Control quality control, because as an input they need to know so that they know what to check for, what standards are. And control procurements, they need to know also. Okay. Tools and techniques. The one different tool is called claims administration, and that's where you're working through contested changes. And of course, inspections you will do and audits in accordance with the contract. And then in the end, you will close the procurement when it closes. You don't wait till the end of the phase. You don't wait till the end of the project. You close it and collect lessons learned, get feedback, that sort of thing. Some final thoughts on control procurements. You're welcome to read that yourself. It's a good slide. I just mentioned claims administration. So claims administration as a part of the control procurement is about claims. These are disagreements filed this time by the seller. Hey, buyer, you caused me to do this or that. That caused me damage that I couldn't meet something. They may be valid. They may be trying to get some of their money back, recoup some dollars. Who knows, right? So contested changes on the right here can become claims. Claims can become disputes, and disputes can become appeals. This can get sticky. Contested changes and constructive changes are about the buyer and seller and this process that you're going through. Now, a constructive change is the buyer, again, getting in the way of the seller performing their duties, right? So if there's a conflict, the procurement manager is the only one with the authority to actually change the contract. These are just some things to watch out for in procurement management. I would read that. So in a fixed price contract, I want to be careful if the seller, remember, it's the most risk to them. So if they're falling behind, they may try and cut my scope or quality, right? Something. I want to keep an eye on that. It's the buyer. In time and material, I must give day-to-day direction to that contract vehicle, that contract employee. And cost reimbursable requires an audit process because, again, they're giving me all these receipts. Do I know they're valid? I need to audit it, right? In control procurements, I do want to make sure I keep a good records management system. Remember, this is a legally binding agreement. We want to keep good records. And contract interpretation can become an issue, right? Frequently, a project manager will have to interpret, right? I check with legal when I do that. And if you have issues, that's when ADR, first you negotiate between the buyer and seller. If you can't resolve it, arbitration, mediation, or litigation become the next steps. That's all part of alternative dispute resolution. Now, controlling procurements close, right? And ideally it's done amicably. Everybody's happy. Here's your deliverable. Thank you. Here's your money. All claims are finalized. Retainage is paid back, that 5 to 10% we were withholding, and everybody's happy. But sometimes, and this, so you can close procurements when the contract is complete, or sometimes when the contract is terminated. Now, contracts are generally only terminated for cause in the commercial world, but you can write in for convenience. For the federal government, they can be terminated for cause or convenience, right? That really doesn't matter. Understand that they can be terminated for cause or convenience. The government can terminate a contract for convenience because what makes it a contract is there's an offer. Well, it's really my tax dollars. It's not the government's money. And so you as the government procurement officer are making an offer on my behalf. And so the courts will allow for convenience. But from a commercial contract, you'd want to write that in there. And termination automatically puts the procurement into the closing process group, right? And you still do an orderly closing when you do that, okay? These are some final points. Please pause and read through it. And here we are. Procurement management. This is the last and final summary slide. Notice we have 3 processes, and this is what's going on in the verticals in each process, so we can keep them all clear in our minds. And in the bottom we have the major outputs. Okay, excellent summary slide. Those slides should be one of the first things you grasp. It says you've got a pretty good, maybe not perfect yet, maybe not ready, but a pretty good understanding if you can recite these summary slides. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.